What's up, guys, and welcome to the Foot and Fist Sports Network. Today we're going to be talking about fight fallout from UFC Fight Night, Overeem versus Arlovski. After Sunday night's win over Andrei Arlovski, Overeem is in a great position in the heavyweight division. Basically, whether he fights for the title next depends on whether Cain Velasquez wins or loses at UFC 200 against Travis Browne. If Cain Velasquez does lose, I expect Alistair Overeem to take on the winner between Stipe Miocic and Fabricio Verdum for the UFC heavyweight title because, Travis Browne, he's coming off of a loss against Andrei Arlovski, so he can't really get it. Junior Dos Santos is going to be out for a while after beating Ben Rothwell, so basically it's obvious that Alistair Overeem should be the next contender. He's on a three or four fight win streak. He just knocked out Dos Santos. He just knocked out Andrei Arlovski, who, even though he hasn't exactly been the best overall, he is still in a great position. He's ranked number 5 now. So it's a good win, and having won such a decisive way, he basically can't be out of the running. If he doesn't get the title shot immediately, then I would say he should probably take on somebody like maybe a Josh Barnett or take on Travis Browne in a rematch because, that was a very odd loss for Overeem. He basically just let himself get front kicked. I think it was 8 or 9 times in a row by the same exact kick. And I think that if they fought again, it would be very different. I think Overeem has shown that he's a lot more cautious about his chin, and he's protecting it a lot more. And ever since he moved to Greg Jackson and Coach Wingo John's camp, he has shown a lot more strategy, and I think that's going to help him moving forward. And regardless of whether he fights immediately for the title or if he has to take one more fight, a UFC title shot looks to be in the near future for Alistair Overeem. Somebody who, when he came to the UFC, was expected to take the division by storm, basically beat everybody, especially when he beat Brock Lesnar that badly. Everybody expected him to be the greatest heavyweight of all time, and let's see if he can get himself into that running once again. Next up, let's talk about Andrei Arlovski, who it was really, really fun to see him come back to the UFC and go on such a resurgence. Up until a few years ago, he looked like he was a finished fighter, but when he came back to the UFC, he looked really good, getting some big wins, especially his big win over Travis Browne. But now he's on a 2-fight losing streak, and his chin problems, or his lack of a chin, has sort of caught up to him once again. Every time he gets caught, he looks like he's in danger. I know that in the heavyweight division, one shot can basically finish anybody in that weight class, but there are some guys out there who just manage to basically not get caught. Junior Dos Santos has only been caught one time. Guys like that. Cain Velasquez has only been caught once by an actual, just finishing shot. And there are just these guys who manage to tough it out. Andrei Arlovski doesn't seem to be one of those guys. And even though he has had a really good career, and maybe it is coming to an end, I do think that maybe if he can get on one or two wins in a row, he may still have a chance of making a title run. So I think that there are a couple of options. Number one, you could either put him up against a guy like Junior Dos Santos, who, if he were to beat Junior, he would be immediately back in the running for a title shot, and it would be a very big win. Maybe even give him an immediate title shot because of how good Junior Dos Santos is. But that is a very big risk. I think Junior would probably destroy him. All due respect to Arlovski, he's really good, but I just think that Junior's power and his ability to take a shot is a complete nightmare for a guy like Arlovski. And I think that what they should probably do is give him somebody who's a little bit lower in the rankings. Listen, it's going to be a common theme in this video. I love Josh Barnett, what he brings to the table. I think that would be a very interesting fight. Just based on the fact that they're both pioneers of the sport, that they fought before a long time ago, though, so it doesn't really matter. And it would be very interesting to see how that would go out. Just to touch on Overeem one more time. The reason I mentioned earlier that Overeem should take on Josh Barnett is because both guys are superstars in Japan. It would be really, really good to see them headline a card on the Saitama Arena, a huge card in Japan. Let's go ahead and move on to Stefan Struve, who came back and made a very, very, impressive win in his own right. Now, I say that taking that with a grain of salt because while it is impressive to knock a guy like Bigfoot Silva out in 15 seconds, it is Bigfoot Silva. And I say that with the utmost respect for Bigfoot Silva, but we've seen in recent fights that his chin is completely gone. And ever since he's had his health problems, his latest surgery, and ever since he got off TRT, he just doesn't look like the same guy. He cannot take a shot. He was rocked by the very first punch thrown, or landed at least, by Stefan Struve. That's not a good sign for the guy. like I said, the utmost respect for everybody who steps in the octagon, but I just don't think that Bigfoot Silva has it in him to make another title run. And considering the health problems he has, everybody knows that he has a lot of problems with his disease, and the fact that he has to take testosterone in order to live, and the fact that he's taken so much head trauma lately and just so much damage throughout his career. I think it's probably time for Bigfoot Silva to call it quits. I would prefer to see him not take any more damage and, maybe try something else in his career, but he seems adamant that he wants to keep fighting. He put out a long message on, I think it was Instagram or Facebook, talking about how people need to shut the fuck up, and he's going to go out there and basically show him respect. And I do believe he has the right to continue fighting if he wants to. I just don't think that there's anybody in the top 15 that wouldn't basically kill him. Wouldn't knock him out. So I think maybe give him somebody that's not in the top 15. Give him maybe one last fight. See if he maybe wants to retire on a win and go from there. Because I think anybody in the top 15 is going to basically knock him out. I just don't think that his chin in that division is going to hold up any longer. And it's a shame to see, but he's had a really good career. Big wins over Fedor. He's fought for the UFC title before. He's had a good run in his career. His fight with Mark Hunt, whether or not he was on steroids and all that, we all know that he was on testosterone. But either way, it was one of the legendary heavyweight fights. And I just think that it's been it would probably be time for Bigfoot to retire. Next up, I'm going to talk about, basically Stefan Struve. I brushed over him. I apologize for that. But yeah, Stefan Struve's win was very impressive because of how he won in 15 seconds. But I'm not too sure how much it really means based on who he beat. I think that the next step for Stefan Struve in his comeback would have to be taking on somebody maybe in the top 12, top 15, top 10, excuse me. Like maybe somebody, I don't know, maybe like a Ben Rothwell, because since both guys have, Ben Rothwell was on a very long win streak. I apologize for almost making a mistake. Ben Rothwell was on a very big win streak, but he was very exposed by Junior Dos Santos in their last fight. And what I think they could do is maybe put Struve against Rothwell, because we've seen that the jab is a very big problem for Ben Rothwell. A quick fighter is a problem. So it'll be interesting to see if Stefan Struve can sort of work his range, work a jab, and stick and move on Rothwell and get himself a big win. Because, what was it, 2011, 2012, Stefan Struve had a win over Stipe Miocic. He was looking like a guy who was a legit contender, and ever since he had that heart problem, things have gone wrong, basically ever since Mark Hunt fractured his jaw. But I think that if he can get a win over Rothwell and really put together the pieces in his game that he has the potential of doing, he has that, he's really, really tall, he's got the 84-inch reach, excuse me. He's a huge guy. If he can just learn to use those tools to the very best of his abilities, he may be able to make a title run. And I think a guy like Rothwell would provide him the right chance to see exactly where he is in his game and see where exactly he can go from there. Last but not least, guys, I want to talk about Gunnar Nelson. Now, when it comes to prospects in MMA, Gunnar Nelson has been one of the most impressive in my opinion. I've seen him quite a few times now, and you see that he has a really good ground game. Even though against Demian Maia he had a very tough fight, he got dominated. But losing to Demian Maia on the mat is nothing to be ashamed of. Demian Maia is one of the best jiu-jitsu practitioners in MMA, and he's shown that. He's done that to many guys. He even did that for one round against Rory McDonald, who is one of the best welterweights in the world, even of all time. So it'll be interesting to see what a guy like Gunnar Nelson can do after coming back from Demian Maia, beating up Tumenov. I don't know why he was the underdog in that fight. Personally, I thought it was clearly going to be a Gunnar Nelson win, but that's besides the point. So it'll be interesting to see what he could do against a guy who is maybe not in the top 10 quite yet, but somebody like Thiago Alves or somebody like, Dong Hyun Kim. Dong Hyun Kim, I think, is ranked number 9, so that might be a little too far for Gunnar Nelson right now. I think Tumenov was ranked number 13, so it does sort of make sense. But I think a guy like Thiago Alves or even Dong Hyun Kim, to a lesser extent, can provide him with the right test to see what he can do against a very well-rounded mixed martial artist. Thiago Alves has power, he has jiu-jitsu, he's got some wrestling defense, he's got those great leg kicks. It'll be very interesting to see what a guy like Gunnar Nelson can do. We've seen that his ground game is very good, and his striking is coming along. So once he can start mixing those things together to the very best of his abilities, he looks like he'll probably be a contender maybe within the next 2-3 years. And I think he's definitely a guy to look out for in the future. Alright guys, that's the end of the video. Hope you enjoyed it. If you did, please hit the like button. Please subscribe to the channel. Let me know in the comment section down below if you think Bigfoot Silva should retire or who you think he should take on next to give him sort of a tune-up fight. Let me know in the comments also if you think Alistair Overeem should get the next UFC heavyweight title shot after, based on what plays out between Velasquez and Travis Browne. Thanks for watching, guys. I'll see you next time.